And a good Thursday morning to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in for a look at your extended forecast. Starting to enter a rainy stretch as soon as this afternoon. We will see the rain chances pick up from what they have been so far during the work week. And then as we go into the weekend, it is definitely shaping up to be a messy forecast, specifically your Friday afternoon and evening. I know it's not the most opportune timing, but it will help cool some of the numbers down. So increasing chances, your main headlines as we go into a messy Friday and Saturday. Cooler and sunnier next week. We are going to have another frontal boundary. We have one moving through that is going to cause our rain chances today. It's more of a weak frontal boundary, but the one next week definitely looks to usher in some cooler and drier air. So as we look towards the end of your 7-day forecast, it will look very nice. Here's a look at your current numbers so far. Somewhere in the low 80s mainly. We do have one upper 70 over in Thomaston, but overall pretty similar values to what we had this time yesterday. 86 down in Vidalia, the warmest temperature that we see here in the near vicinity. And taking a look at 87 in New Orleans, and that is the top number. So Vidalia only 1 degree off the warmest temperature that we do see here in the eastern half of the United States. Seeing some low 80s over in Texas, 80 in Jackson, 80 in Montgomery, and then down in Florida, our fair share of some mid 80s down there in the Panhandle state. So now taking a look over here towards the east, and yeah, take a look and try to spot where Hurricane Erin currently is. You can see that center of circulation directly to the east of the Outer Banks. So it is producing some rain-cooled air in coastal areas of North Carolina, going down into Virginia, the Chesapeake Bay area. Actually very cool up in areas 68 in Washington, D.C., 76 in Virginia Beach. If they're not getting any rain, we're definitely seeing our fair share of cloud cover up in those areas on the Atlantic coast. Dew point temperatures nice and muggy, just like it has been the last couple of days, and these dew point temperatures are going to continue to be nestled somewhere in the 70s. So that's going to influence our feels like temperature as we go throughout the afternoon hours. But we do have some relief in store. So anything in the way of some warm temperatures and some hot feels like temperatures should be pretty short-lived as we go into this afternoon. Some slightly drier air up to the north in the Appalachian Mountains and up in areas like Tennessee. But none of that can really be found here in the state of Georgia, or at least central Georgia, where we see splotches of the very dark green color. So here's a look at your feels like numbers. Very thankfully, we don't see any at the triple digit mark. 97 is what it feels like down in Cordele, feels like 95 in Rochelle, 96 in Unadilla, and going into some lower 90s over here in our eastern half, 93 over in Gordon. I'd say most of central Georgia probably, actually I'd say it's about half and half between some 80s and some 90s is what it feels like. Feels like 93 up in Forsyth, 85 in Monticello, 86 in Macon, and then 87 as you make your way down I-75 into Houston County and Warner Robins. Not much of a breeze, but an occasional breeze of 3 to 5 miles per hour present across some areas. We're not really looking at some gusty winds to take place throughout today, giving you an idea that we were kind of just on the edge of that wind field associated with Hurricane Erin. But let's talk some temperatures. And yesterday, we finally put an end to the streak of 93-degree days, high temperature of 92 degrees. So it doesn't really feel all that different, but it was right on par for what averages this time of year. 73 was the morning low, so a little bit warmer than average. But very thankfully, we're not seeing any temperatures that get anywhere near our record highs. 105 degrees back in 1925. And you can definitely still get your fair share of 100-degree days in the month of August here in central Georgia. Very thankfully, we haven't seen any of those numbers in about 3 weeks. And we still have a little bit of summer to go. We hold on to that warmer weather just a tad bit longer than most areas of the country. So we'll have to continue to keep you updated if we do see a big warm up to where we could see some upper 90s and 100-degree marks in the near future. But the good news is we are not looking at that. So didn't record any rain yesterday for about the 3rd or 4th day in a row at Middle Georgia Regional Airport, which is a pretty long streak, honestly, for the month of August, because we've had more days that we've recorded rain as opposed to days that we've remained dry. Your departure of rain is now dipped below 4 inches, but we still have a really good cushion to enter a good dry stretch. But we have our fair share of rain chances that I was alluding to as we go into this weekend. So the first part of today is going to continue to be hot. We're going to continue to watch those feels like numbers climb, And as we go just around lunchtime, just past lunchtime, that's when we will see those improving rain chances. It's going to be driven by our frontal boundary that is just to the north of us right now. So what that's going to do, it's going to enhance the lift ahead of it. And that's going to just lead to our fair share of more widely covered spotty showers and a couple of storms. But if you do dodge the rain, you are going to continue to see numbers somewhere in the lower 90s for high temperatures today. If we undershoot this high temperature, not a bad thing whatsoever, but it does look like we have the potential, if we dodge some of the showers, to increase to that 93-degree mark. So now let's take a look at your heat index graphic, and it's been fluctuating just about each update that we continue to get. Now it's popping up some 100-degree marks at 2 and 3 o'clock, but we do see a steady and a gradual trend downward as we go throughout the late afternoon and the evening hours, and already feeling below the 90-degree mark by 8 p.m., which is maybe about an hour or two earlier than we have been used to, hinting at the fact that we should have some amount of cloud cover and some amount of at least spotty showers to cool those numbers down just a tad bit. But first and foremost, we'll take a look at your satellite and radar, seeing a few more clouds in the picture than we have been getting an image of. Actually looks like maybe some sprinkles over here to the west. That may just be some backscatter from the radar, but we do see some light showers back over across the state line into Alabama. So along with this cloud cover, as our temperatures continue to warm up, that's when we're going to start to look at some spotty shower and storm activity to get going. But overall, it's a pretty quiet image so far. Our frontal boundary is kind of right now just nestled and has moved past northwest Georgia, but it's going to continue to slowly push down into central Georgia, and then it's going to stall over Friday and Saturday, and that's what's going to lead to our pretty widespread rain chances, because even if the front is staying put and it is stationary, we can still get a lot of lift ahead of those, and that's going to act as more of a driving mechanism with your weather, as opposed to the typical summertime pop-up showers and thunderstorms that just operate off the heat of the day. So this is just past lunchtime, just past the midday hour, 1 p.m. You can already see a couple of dots getting going here in central Georgia, and then they start to be more frequent as we progress throughout the afternoon. Some pockets of yellow, orange, and red that are going to indicate your heavier rainfall rates, and along with that can indicate a couple of thunderstorms. But it's still mainly of the scattered nature. This is all very, very spotty, not really organized or clustered together whatsoever, until maybe we get into the evening and nighttime hours, where we're still trying to hold on to a few thunderstorms as we go into the nighttime hours later on tonight. So the second half of today going to be a little bit messier than what we have seen as of recent days, and these rain chances still aren't terribly very widespread. Doesn't mean everyone's going to get rain. We'll still have our fair share of areas that do dodge a couple of showers and storms today, but this is a better chance that we have seen over central Georgia than the last couple of days, rather, I should say. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday have been rather dry, besides an occasional shower or thunderstorm. Starting out Friday morning with a good amount of clouds in the picture, but there is some clearing in that cloud cover, and we will occasionally see some breaks that will lead to some sunshine. That's going to allow for a warm up. But right now, Friday at noon, looks like we'll still get an early start, rather, I should say, to some of these rain chances, really starting out as light showers, but progressing into more so some pockets of thunderstorms as we go into the afternoon hours. Here's 3 p.m. on Friday, going into 5 p.m., continuing to be pretty widespread. And then as we go into the evening hours, 7 p.m. on Friday, still lots of showers and thunderstorms in the picture, and it does look pretty widespread over central Georgia. So it's going to be a pretty messy Friday evening. If you have any outdoor plans, you made plans to go out to dinner, made plans to maybe go shoot 9 holes right there at twilight hour, right before the golf course closes, or the big thing, which is all of you heading out to high school football games. So you're not going to want to go anywhere without the rain gear readily available, but we'll continue to play it forward, still seeing our fair share of thunderstorms as we go into 9 p.m. So along with those thunderstorms, you know that means that there's going to be lightning strikes within the area. If you continue to just have heavy rain and frequent lightning strikes, then obviously that's going to prolong the delay of football games, because once you get to about a 5-mile threshold, I think it is, wherever lightning strikes, then you continue to add about a 30 or 45-minute delay each time that lightning strike does start, and the time timer restarts. So you could be dealing with a very late start to your game, or there may be our fair share of cancellations. But overall, you need to plan on a pretty messy Friday evening, and you may luck out and only have some light showers. Not a bad thing whatsoever, but plenty of cloud cover is going to be associated with this rain that is going to be widespread on Friday evening, and then we go into the midnight hour on Saturday. Most of this activity tries to fizzle out, but I think it's still going to be a pretty gloomy and messy image on the satellite and radar by the time we kick off the second day of your weekend. You're seeing mainly some light showers, and that's probably what you'll walk out the door to if you do come across anything in the way of rain. Other than that, it's going to be a mainly overcast forecast that tries to break apart as we go into lunchtime on Saturday, and that looks to contribute to even more rain chances. This is still pretty spotty as of right now. Last 2 model runs of Future View haven't really hinted at widespread rain like Friday is having in store, so we may back down on the rain chances just a touch on Saturday. But overall, you probably will have your fair share of clouds in the picture and some spotty showers and storms lingering into Sunday, which is where we're going to have one more day of kind of above average rain chances, and then we have some relief in store. But if you have been searching for cooler temperatures, we will have that as soon as tomorrow. High of 93 today goes down to 88 tomorrow on Friday afternoon, and then 84 for a high temperature on Saturday, and that's mainly because we're already going to start out the day mostly cloudy, so we're not going to allow for much of a warm-up whatsoever. It will still be enough to get those numbers into the 80s, but along with this temperature drop will be the feels like temperature drop. So we'll probably feel somewhere into the low 90s at the most, maybe even the upper 80s on Saturday. So at least you have some relief in store when it comes to the cooler temperatures, but overall not shaping up to be a pretty ideal weekend. I have an 80% chance of rain as it stands on Friday right now, down to a 60% on Saturday. According to the latest model run of Future View, obviously I would probably back down on both of these, but we'll continue to see some fluctuation. We've seen good consensus that we are going to continue to see pretty widespread rain chances and pretty good shots at rain each and every day over the next 3 days. But taking a look at this, we do have an excessive rainfall outlook, and just about every day, if you go for the day 1 outlook through today, this is the day 2 outlook through Friday, and then the day 3 outlook also has a marginal risk. But we do have more than that marginal risk as we go to the day 2 outlook, which is valid through Friday, which means we have the potential for almost all of central Georgia seeing maybe some scattered flash flood warnings. That's mainly because if we have these clusters of thunderstorms that pop up during the afternoon on Friday, they're going to have slow motion to them. So they're going to kind of sit over the same areas that can result in the ponding of water and pretty heavy rainfall rates associated with some of these thunderstorms. So that can contribute to some flash flooding. But the good news is hopefully we have a bit of a dry ground in order to kind of soak up a good amount of this water, give it some much needed hydration. But if we just continue to add to those totals after the ground is already saturated, that's where you're going to start to get puddles of water on top of the grass, those low-lying areas, especially areas that don't drain well. So we'll be on the lookout if there are any of those over the next couple of days. Let's take a look at Future View rainfalls graphic over the next 3 days, and you can see that most of that rain is going to fall as we go into Saturday. Over the last 2 model runs, I've seen good consensus that the farther south and southeast that you travel, you are going to see heavier or larger totals, rather, I should say, along with that, some heavier rain. But we can see some locally heavy amounts even above the general range. It looks like most of central Georgia finds themselves somewhere between the 1 and 2 inch range. But how about this in Macon? 3.5 inches of rain would definitely not be a bad thing. We don't want those numbers at Middle Georgia Regional Airport. That would definitely put us well above average, probably somewhere near 7 inches above average. But it just depends on where you live. And the areas that do get above that 1 to 2 inch range are going to have kind of those heavier showers and thunderstorms sit over the same area for a prolonged period of time. And some areas may not even get to the inch mark. You see only 1/10 of an inch over in Thomaston, 3/10 of an inch in Butler. Right now with the latest model run guidance, it does look like our westernmost counties are probably going to be left out of most of the widespread heavy showers and thunderstorms, but we'll continue to keep a close eye on that. Just want to give you an idea about what the potential is, because that's what we always talk about during these summertime months. Where the rain specifically pops up is kind of anyone's best guess, but we do focus on the potential, what we are seeing in terms of the exact range, perhaps, of the rainfall amounts, but it is going to be a pretty messy start to your weekend and into your work week. The only good news is we will have every day this weekend nestled in the 80s, but you will notice a steady warming trend from Saturday all the way up to Monday as we kick off next week. Only getting to the 90-degree mark, but you may say, oh, okay, Monday's only 90, but we'll probably continue to warm up. That's where we have another talking point with your forecast that we'll get to in just a moment, but we can allude to it very quickly. Taking a look at your muggy meter right now, where we're going to hang around and keep the humidity around all the way through the weekend, but then between Sunday and Monday, that's where we're looking at a drop in the humidity. So maybe even getting down into this orange box, which is going to be dew point temperatures in the 50s. That's feeling very comfortable, especially comfortable for the end of August here in central Georgia. It does look like we're going to have some mechanism that's going to usher in some drier air. And that's going to be courtesy of front number 2. So front number 1 going to come through today and lead to more widely scattered showers and storms. But front number 2 looks like it will start to push in as we go into Sunday. That's what's creating pretty decent rain chances still in the forecast for Sunday. But then as we go into Monday, that front tries to push through, and it looks like drier air tries to make its entrance into the state of Georgia. The GFS and the European are still hinting at some moisture lingering in certain portions of the southeast. Overall, there's not much agreement of this, so we do have some pretty slim and minuscule rain chances for not only Monday, but also Tuesday, when we should see probably the driest air present over here in the southeast. And then as we go back into Wednesday, maybe some scattered rain chances here and there, but there's not much overlap and not much agreement in the long-range models as we go into next week. But it does look like we are going to trend pretty dry for the beginning of the work week, and then we'll see where we are kind of ending out the work week next week as we go into a big weekend for many, which is the start of college football. So now let's take a look at Hurricane Erin. We actually got the 11 a.m. advisory a little bit earlier. So the latest update has seen a downtick in the winds from 105 down to 100 miles per hour, pressure up to 952 millibars. But the biggest change that we have seen as of this morning is this direction change. Now moving to the north-northeast at 18 miles per hour. So number one, it's definitely moving faster than what we were seeing at this time yesterday, maybe only moving at about 13 miles per hour. But it was moving up to the northwest, and we were saying, okay, it's going to begin that northward turn. Well, now it's beginning the northeastern turn as it is going to go back out to sea. Right now it's just off the Atlantic coast of Carolina and Virginia, but it's not going to get any closer to those areas. It's going to continue to get farther and farther away. And it looks like Erin could be a Category 1 by the time we even wake up tomorrow morning, or maybe even sometime later on this evening. So seeing a steady weakening trend, still going to maintain Category 1 status for quite some time until we get to Saturday morning. That's when it's expected to drop back down into tropical storm status, or maybe just a remnant low pressure system right here. We're going to have to do some updating with these icons because this is a little bit misleading. You see this low pressure center and you kind of think, oh, okay, it's extra tropical, it doesn't have much organization, but it's still maintaining 80 mile per hour winds. And that is going to be, yes, that is still going to be low end Category 1 status right there. But as it continues to move up into the northern Atlantic and not impact anyone but the fish, you can see that it will continue to weaken. 70 mile per hour winds, 65, and then Tuesday by right there around noon, 50 mile per hour winds. And the good news is we were thinking that, okay, this might take a turn and impact areas of the United Kingdom sometime early next week, but it does look like it's going to kind of take another northerly direction up there, and it's really not going to have a lot to work with. It is pretty cold up here in the northern Atlantic, even though it is the summertime season. However, areas like Iceland and then maybe somewhere in the United Kingdom could get some bands of tropical rain, maybe some gusty winds. Still a little bit too far out to tell that, but it's getting farther away from us in the U.S., and that's the main point that I want to hammer in with that. But let's go ahead and check in on all of the tropics. We have an entire bowl of fruit out there. We have apples, we have lemons, and we have oranges. Taking a look at your apple right here, which is going to be this red shaded area. So that's when you start to get high chances of development. You need someday or one of the windows, either the next 2 days or the next 7 days, to have at least a 70% chance of development. And that's exactly what this area right here, that's really following in the footsteps of Hurricane Erin, does have. So it's this cluster of showers and storms right now. It's east of the Caribbean. it is expected to kind of take a northerly turn just like Aaron did. So we'll have a series of frontal boundaries coming through, and that's going to help steer anything in the tropics coming in our direction, back out to sea, up to the north, and then eventually curve up to the northeast like Aaron did. But you can see that this is a pretty big area, and the reason that we do have it highlighted in red now is because over the next 7 days, so not really necessarily over the next week, it's just past the 2-day window, there is a 70% chance of development, but we have seen the next 2-day window increase to about a 40% chance of development, mainly because it is finally out of this dust plume that you can get faint images of right here around the Atlantic Ocean headline and then back over here towards the east of it. So it's running into a more conducive environment. Those chances of development are very likely to go up, and it's now matching the best chances of development with the tropical wave behind it. But before we talk about that wave behind it, we got a new area of development as of 8 a.m. this morning, and take a look at this itsy bitsy spider. It is just smack dab in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It's moving to the east. That's the main interpretation I'm getting from this. They gave it 30% chance of developing over the next 2 days and over the next 7 days. We've just really seen it kind of pulse up out of nowhere, but it's moving away from us. That's the main takeaway that I want you to take with this, and not really understanding why you're giving such a small area a good chance of development. We could see it intensify very rapidly, but it's also moving into the dust plume. That is directly over here to the east, so we'd have to see that dust plume sag a little bit farther to the south so it could just run over that warm ocean water. But this is kind of where you're getting into the deeper portions of the Atlantic Ocean, so your water isn't going to be as warm per se as maybe shallower areas that are closer to the coast. But we still are kind of in that peak season where the sea surface temperatures are rather warm. We'll continue to keep a close eye on it, but I don't think this is anything that we need to worry about. Just thought I would mention it to you because we now have 3 areas of potential development down in the tropics. But let's go to this tropical wave that we've been talking about that's been moving off the coast of Africa recently. You see how much dust is directly over to the west of Africa, so that's really going to inhibit development on those latitudes of the Atlantic Ocean and in the tropics. Back over here, kind of towards the southwest portion of the Saharan Desert, that's where we're going to start to see these waves try to move off of, because they're not going to develop a little higher up where plenty of the dust does sit. But a 40% chance of development, these are about the same chances that it did have this time yesterday. So now it matches the same percent chance of developing as the wave ahead of it over the next 2 days. It's kind of a toss-up, 50-50 chance, flip a coin, whichever one of these is actually going to get its act together first and claim that F name on the hurricane season list. But overall, it does look like this is going to continue to move over to the west. Past that, anyone's best guess about what's going to happen. It's nothing that we need to be immediately concerned about until we start to get better chances of development, maybe get a named storm, and maybe get a cone forecast that gives us a better interpretation about where this is going to go in the near future. So with nothing impacting us in the way of tropics, let's take a look at your 7-day forecast, where we're going to have that front move through today, and it's going to drive through some more widely scattered showers, 40% chance of a shower or storm throughout this afternoon and into the evening. Then that front sits over us for Friday and Saturday. That's going to lead to a lot of lift along the boundary, and that's going to contribute to some widely scattered showers and storms. Friday more so than Saturday. We are mainly just seeing our fair share of widely scattered showers on Saturday. We'll continue to see if we do have more thunderstorm activity pop up, but I definitely wouldn't rule out a couple of thunderstorms on Saturday. So still elected to keep the mostly cloudy and the thunderstorm icon on that. But the big difference between these couple of days is not only the temperature drop, but it's because of this. The cloudy icon does get a lot bigger. I think we're going to have more cloud cover that's going to really suppress that warm up and keep us in the 80s all weekend long. But then we'll begin to clear out as we go into Sunday, not substantially, but we should be a little bit warmer Sunday as compared to Saturday. And then we'll warm up all the way into Monday. And now I have a 10% chance of rain because we're still seeing some shaded areas pretty close to us. I don't want to eliminate the rain chances entirely until we can get a good image of Monday on our short range models. But we should warm up, and then sometime through the day on Monday, that secondary front is going to move through, and that one's actually going to pass clean through central Georgia. So what it's going to do, usher in not only drier air, but some cooler air. So you notice, or well, I guess you can see it, but we haven't really talked about it too much because every day has basically started out the same, somewhere in the 70s. 65 for a morning low on Tuesday and another 65 on Wednesday. But along with that, the high temperatures are dropping and we're not seeing much in the way of rain. So this isn't temperatures that are really suppressed by the cloud cover and all that rain cooled air. We're actually seeing our fair share of some slightly cooler air inserted into the forecast. Now, people are posting stuff on social media and the National Weather Service has even given us the same guidance, a very false fall-like forecast. 84 is still pretty warm. I don't really consider it to be fall weather until you get some highs in the 70s and it's nice and sunny outside, but we will take what we can get. We are going to see probably a more substantial cool down as we go into the mid portion of next week, as opposed to this weekend, because we're really going to keep the humidity around this weekend. And it actually looks really dry for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those dew point temperatures should be somewhere in the lower 60s. We could even see a couple values in the upper 50s. So that in that aspect, it will probably feel a little bit like fall, but let's still try to get those temperatures down into the 70s before we really start talking about fall. It will feel a lot better than high temperatures in the low 90s that do feel more like the upper 90s and near 100. And the rain chances, I do believe, start to uptick. We're seeing a little bit more uncertainty, but a lot more shaded areas in the near vicinity on the long range models as we go into Wednesday next week. So that's where things currently do stand. If you missed any of the tropics talk and you want a little bit of a more in-depth talk, we'll break it down. I'm going to do a tropics update after this, but not much to really talk about with Hurricane Erin and all the other areas. We're just kind of updating you on their percent chances for development. It's just something we're going to continue to keep an eye on, and hopefully we haven't seen too many impacts up on the Carolina and the Virginia coast. Haven't seen too many videos and whatnot yet, but hopefully that means a lot of folks did heed the warnings and did evacuate. Even though Erin didn't make landfall, it was a fairly strong storm, and it obviously can have impacts way outside the cone, and that's something you'll hear us message a lot through this hurricane season. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning, and we're going to break down your FFN forecast. And if you're traveling to Montgomery to go watch the Mercer Bears kick off this weekend, we'll break down that forecast over there in Alabama as well. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.